Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good evening.
Good morning.
Good morning. And you would think I would have just got that right. We just did our Bible study. Good morning to you on your Wednesday. It's October 12th, 2016. This is Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you, and I have Mrs. Kubila Harden also in the studio with me today. And joining us is our guest today. This is Mr. Leslie Sitzes, and he is running for Jonesboro City Council for Ward 2, Position 2. KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not endorse nor support any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This interview is provided for educational purposes only. How are you doing today, Mr. Sitzes?
I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me, and I want to say thank you to your listeners for caring enough to become informed voters.
All right, and of course, make sure that you do go out to vote to make your voice known. Early voting will begin October 24th. All right, Mr. Sitzes, tell the listeners a bit about yourself and your background.
Oh my, how much time we got?
Well, in this break, we got 19 minutes left.
Well, like you said, my name's Leslie Sitzes. I came to Jonesboro about 6 years ago. I was born in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in 1951. I moved around a lot because when I got out of high school, I got into the construction trade. I spent just shy of 11 years in the Boilermakers, which is heavy iron, steel. Okay. I got tired of traveling around, so when I got out of the Boilermakers, I happened to be in a little town called Winfield, Iowa. I secured a position with the Department of Corrections. I tell people that I spent 10 years in prison, 8 hours at a time.
Oh, goodness.
I also tell them that I met my wife in prison because she too was a correctional officer. When I got out of prison, I went to work in manufacturing. I spent most of that time as a mechanic for manufacturing companies. I hold 2 Associate of Applied Science degrees in information technology. I worked for companies such as Champion Spark Plug. I don't know, there's a bunch of them out there.
Okay.
Federal Mogul.
Okay.
I worked for Procter & Gamble, and now I work for Unilever here in Jonesboro.
Okay.
As a maintenance lead on the midnight shift. I've got 4 children, 8 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
They're spread all over the country. My youngest works here at Crane Composites. My oldest works in Iowa City. Her name is also Leslie.
Oh.
Spelled differently, but she's a welder and a tool and die apprentice. My oldest son is a detective for the Pennington County Sheriff's Department in South Dakota, Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
And then my youngest daughter works for a restaurant also in South Dakota.
Okay.
All right, so you definitely have a diverse family that is spread out all over the United States. Now, Mr. Sitzes, tell the listeners now, how do you feel that you are qualified to be on the city council? I actually met you a few months ago during one of the property code debates. You at one of the forums, they have for the property code, and you stood up and that you said that you were a former mayor. So tell the listeners a little bit about that and whatever other experience you feel makes you qualified to be a member of the city council.
Okay. As you said, I was mayor of the city of Winfield. I had decided I was going to run for a council seat, and the then mayor came to me and asked me if I would consider running for mayor. I told him I wasn't sure I knew enough about it. He said, well, you got plenty of people to help you, the city clerk, the local mayors. I did know the mayor of Mount Pleasant, which was a little larger than Winfield.
And how big is Winfield?
Winfield's, when I was the mayor, it was about 1,400 people. I think somebody looked it up here the other day, and it's down to like 1,200.
Okay.
But and in Mount Pleasant, Iowa is about 9,000. Working in Iowa City, that's about the size of Jonesboro, about 60,000.
Okay.
So a little smaller, but anyway, he asked me to run. I told him I would. I won that election. He promised he'd be around to help me too. And I won the election in November, and at the end of November, Mayor McCosh passed away. So I was actually swore in a month early.
Oh, wow.
The city clerk was also supposed to help me, and he passed away about 8 months later. So, and then Mayor Ed King was tragically killed at a council meeting when a disgruntled citizen came in and shot him and 2 councilmen.
Oh wow! So you've had some experiences with city government.
Well, it's not all good.
Oh, goodness.
So
I was
go ahead.
mayor for 8 years. When I took office, the city employees hadn't had a pay raise in 10 years. Over the next 8 years, I was able to secure a pay raise for all of the city employees every year to the tune of about 17% over the 8 years.
And let's use that as a transition, since you said that was one of your accomplishments that you did as your term as mayor. Of course, one of the current issues going on now is the issue of the raises. The police department, they just got their raises. They're currently working on raises for fire department and other city employees as well. And there are some people that are concerned that these raises are going to, in the future, put a tremendous strain on the budget to the point where taxes may have to be raised, or potential layoffs or budget cuts in other areas to pay for. So if you are elected to the city council, how will you address this situation? Because I think no one disagrees that these people don't deserve the raises. Everyone agrees that the people deserves the raises, but I guess if you're on the council, how do you balance that to where it doesn't bust the budget?
Well, you can't break the bank. If you break the bank, nobody gets paid. But that being said, it's my understanding that it's taken quite a while to get these pay raises enacted, and it's sad that it's taken this long to do that. All of the city employees need to be compensated competitively with the surrounding communities, so we don't lose good, experienced skill. The city employees are here for all of Jonesboro citizens, and we need to make sure that they're compensated fairly. Now, there may be some areas in the budget that are hurting services. Ultimately, you may have to raise taxes, but not without taxpayer consent. And the thing of it is, I like to think of myself as a servant leader. What that means is you sell instead of tell. If you come up with a solution to a problem, you need to sell that to your constituents so that they agree with you, because you don't want to force anything down anybody's throat. So with that in mind, it's going to take some studying, and again, I'm sorry that it's taken this long, because this should have been happening all along.
Okay. Now, you brought up taxes, so I wanted to ask this one question. I don't know if it was during the elections back in March or years past, there was a millage that came up on the ballot. It was a special election, I think, and it was not passed. So, as we know, millage taxes go towards schools and other things. So, how would you propose to maybe bring that up again? Maybe look at the state of the schools and how much money is going out to the schools, and then if there needs to be an increase, and try to help the people understand why that tax needs to be passed.
Right. Just for the record, I voted against that.
Okay. Well, I don't know all the details.
And I did so because I didn't know all the details either.
Okay.
So I think it's a matter, again, of selling. If it didn't pass, then the people felt that it wasn't necessary.
Okay.
Now, if it is, we need to educate them so that they understand that it is. And again, they make the decision. We're working for them.
Okay. And
Go ahead.
Oh, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up. With this election, as we know, there's several issues on the initiatives on the ballot. There is now literature available for people to read, and we're not going to get into that now. That's something that they can go look up on the internet. We can provide that information at a later time, but with what you just said, there needs to be clearly explained literature available to the citizens so they know why we're voting for this, that, and whatever. So
Exactly.
Okay, so let's transition to some other topics that the city council deals with directly. One thing we've talked about, besides the pay, the other issue is infrastructure, flooding, things of that nature.
Oh, absolutely.
So, how would you address some of those issues?
And before he gets into it, I just wanted to let everybody know. If you're just tuning in, we are speaking with Mr. Leslie Sitzes. He is a candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 2, Position 2. If you have a question or a comment for Mr. Sitzes, you can post them on our Facebook live stream, or you can call or text 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080.
Alrighty, Mr. Leslie.
Okay. Well, to me, the number one issue that Jonesboro is facing today is growing pains. That's one of the things that brought me here in the first place is that Jonesboro was kind of like in a bubble, that the economic issues that were happening across the country weren't affecting Jonesboro to that degree. There's always some kind of construction going on. Now there has been some industry leave, but others coming in and others expanding. So I think Jonesboro, growing pains is a good problem to have, but it causes problems in other areas. The water runoff, the storm sewers, traffic flow, and public safety. With the fire department and the police department, those are going to have to be expanded to keep up with that. So, and then as far as the watershed or the storm water issue, I've already been talking to some people about that, and again, like I said, I'm not an engineer, but there are organizations out there who offer the advice and instruction of engineers. The city's going to have to work with the county and whatever other entities that we have to make sure that this water has a place to go.
I wonder, as you were talking, I'm not in ecologists, whatever they call those people. I was thinking, what if there was a way to collect the water? We're all a lot of people are eco-friendly, and they talk about ways of conservation, and there's a lot of rural area around here, especially out where the majority of the flooding is really affecting the people in those rural areas. I wonder if, that could be something that could be talked about with somebody at a later time, but I'm sorry that idea just came to.
That's all right. Like I said, I'm not an engineer, but there are resources that we can go to and get advice and information, and that may be something that is feasible.
Comment. This is from Dwayne Harden. He says, good morning. You are well. Good morning to you, Mr. Harden. Thank you for watching on our Facebook live stream. We are speaking with Mr. Leslie Sitzes. He is a candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 2, Position 2.
Ready? Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt you if you want to finish your statement on.
That was
okay. So
like I said, it would, that could be feasible, but like you said, I'm not an engineer, so we need that input.
Okay.
And we need to evaluate it and find out what's the best course of action.
Okay. Alrighty, and then let's talk about some quality of life topics. There's been talks about dog park and the city ice rink and
The Aquatic Center.
and various other, and then convention centers. And so, give us some of your feedback on how do you feel about these different entities, and can the city sustain them? How would you propose for the city to sustain them?
My personal opinion is that the city should not have to be in the business of entertainment.
Okay.
That being said, I'm in favor of both the dog park and the aquatic center,
Okay.
but not at taxpayer expense.
Okay.
So if the city could offer incentives to private entities, or I've heard that the people who want the dog park are raising the money on their own.
Okay.
Now, if they do that, I don't see a problem with the city offering them a tax break on that property.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with the city offering tax breaks as incentives to private entities for recreation or for industry,
Okay.
as long as there's a sundown on that.
Okay. Now with the
And not to cut you off,
Oh,
and
sorry.
just for the listeners that may not know, a sundown clause is basically that break, that incentive, that tax, whatever, would expire after a certain amount of time.
Okay. Well, if the city were to get these different venues in, even though funded by private source, would they have to hire workers under the city or through the city to maintain and work these different properties?
If these properties were privately owned, the city shouldn't have to
Okay.
pay for the employees.
Okay.
And earlier, Kubila, you talked, when you first asked the question, you also mentioned the convention center. So what are your thoughts on the convention centers? Do you think that the city of Jonesboro can support both? What do you think of the decision for the city to officially put funding behind one and not behind the other? If you were on the council, how would you have handled that?
Well, again, it's, when we talk about entertainment, not everybody in Jonesboro is going to benefit from that.
Okay.
Although the convention center will bring outside revenues in, that has to be balanced. Again, it's something that we cannot run over on into the red. If we're not going to recoup our investment, then we need to take a hard look at it, because somebody sometime will have to pay for that. So, but incentives again is a good way to go.
Okay. Do you think when you talk about budget and going to the red, when they're planning or proposing for these different venues to come in, what are the projections? How far ahead do you have to look at? Okay, this business is going to come January 1, 2017. Okay, we need money to sustain it. In the event it doesn't produce the profit that we were expecting. So how far in advance, do they have to project and then have money set aside to?
Well, it's a situation of Russian roulette.
Okay.
How far ahead are you willing to risk?
Okay.
20 years would not be too long term for me.
Okay.
So again, if you're going to build something, you don't want it to run out of money in 5 years and now you have a vacant building or a vacant piece of property you're going to have to do something with.
Okay.
Because we're not going to collect taxes on that at all.
No, sir.
Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Leslie Sitzes, candidate for Jonesboro City Council Ward 2, Position 2. We'll be going to break in a minute, but if you have a question for Mr. Sitzes, a comment, then you can call us up at 870-277-080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. We're also live streaming on Facebook or YouTube, so you can leave your questions or comments as well, and we will pass them along to Mr. Sitzes.
Alrighty. I'm going to ask this question and we can get into the answer when we come back from break. There has been a topic that came up when there was a special election for city council members, but back in March, there were some that were in favor of ward only voting versus at large voting. So we want to get your thoughts on how do you feel about that. We only have 30 seconds, so that'll give you a little time to think about your answers. I don't want to run out of time. I don't want the listeners to hear everything you have to say.
And we'll be back with Mr. Site's answer to that question. Stay tuned. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
When you were a child, were you always being told to stop slouching and sit up straight? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. If your mom nagged you about the importance of good posture, she knew what she was talking about. Good physical posture can have positive effects. The same thing is true in relationships. Good relational posture is also important. For healthier relationships, start with a posture of humility. Humility acknowledges that you need other people and not just to do what you want them to do. Humility recognizes other people have strengths and insights. Humility listens rather than just lecture. Humility seeks advice and counsel from others. So bring a posture of humility to your relationships. And remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Whistle Stop Bistro and Catering, 5435 East Nettleton Avenue at the four-way stop between highways 351 and 463, serving Jonesboro for over 5 years with a motto of, we cater them all, large or small, offers catering and rental space for parties, churches, offices, and fundraisers for holidays and all occasions. They also offer a full breakfast and lunch menu. Open Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. 870-275-6239. Details at klekfm.org.
New St. John Missionary Baptist Church, 308 North Main Street in Jonesboro, is under the direction of Reverend Ted T. Taylor Sr. Worship services are Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. Sunday school is on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Prayer service is Wednesday nights at 6:30, and Bible class is on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. New St. John also has the Men of Standards Ministries, Outreach Ministry, Choir, Youth Ministry, Dance Ministry, and Missionary Society. www.newstjohn.org. New St. John Missionary Baptist Church on Facebook, 870-932-6915.
Did you know that KLEK 102.5 FM is a nonprofit organization? Did you know that you can donate to KLEK 102.5 FM and your donation is tax deductible? Donations to nonprofit organizations such as KLEK can reduce the amount of taxes you may owe the IRS or increase the amount of any potential tax refund. Support your KLEK today. You can donate by calling 870-277-1080, visiting our studio at 1411 Franklin Street in Jonesboro, or on our website www.klekfm.org. We at KLEK 102.5 FM are blessed and grateful for your support.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK with our guest, Mr. Leslie Sites, candidate for Ward 2, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. Before we went to break, my co-host, Mrs. Kubila Harden, asked the question, are you in favor of ward-based voting where everyone in that ward elects the candidate, or for an at-large system which we currently have, in which the entire city votes for the candidates for the particular ward? Hybrid-based system where one position may be ward-based only and the other position may be at-large. So your thoughts, Mr. Sites?
Well, right now I think I'm leaning toward the at-large vote, because ultimately you're representing everybody in Jonesboro. But I wouldn't be opposed to a hybrid where one is ward-based and the other is at-large.
Okay.
The reason being, it may give you a little tighter influence for your particular part of the city.
Okay.
But again, when you're talking about infrastructures, utilities and streets and public safety, we're all involved in that.
Okay, so since there are 2 positions for each ward, do the 2 aldermen work together for the residents of that area, or are you assigned different areas within the ward, or how does it work?
Well, the 2 should work together.
Okay.
May not always agree, but
You should work
but
together.
that's the beauty of the democratic system.
Okay, so if you are elected, do you plan to possibly host or help host like town hall type meetings?
I would more than welcome that. As you can see, one of my favorite pastimes is talking.
Okay.
So and another one is meeting people.
Okay.
And the simple fact of the matter is, like I said, when we're elected to positions, we work for the people. And there's no way to know what they want unless you talk to them.
Okay. Now, we usually have a caller. I don't know where Miss Norma is.
She must be babysitting her grandchild. Because usually if the child is giving her problems, shout out to all them grandmothers out there, then she's probably not going to call in. But I'm pretty sure that she is listening. Of course, if you are listening and if you'd like to call in, phone number is 870-277-1080. Once again, the phone number is 870-277-1080. We're speaking with Mr. Leslie Sites, who is a candidate for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 2, Position 2.
Well, I'm going to ask her question or pose her statement that she would normally ask. She is an avid rider in support of jets, the jet system. And she says she talks to a lot of different people. And, they would love to see extended service either
for weekends,
either Saturday and or Sunday, and then maybe some extended hours through the week. As we know, most of the money that supports jets is federally funded, so there's a lot of different stipulations this attached to that. So it's not just an easy overnight fix. So if you were elected to council, how would you propose, or how would you try to go about, bringing some changes to the system?
Well, I've never had an opportunity to ride one of the buses.
Okay.
But this mass transit is absolutely necessary in Jonesboro with the traffic situation the way it is.
Okay.
If you didn't have it, you'd be adding more vehicles to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's a good idea to extend the services of the jet system. Again, like I said, I've never had an opportunity to ride, so I don't know exactly how that works, but
Okay.
You may be able to offer tokens, for to recoup some funding
Okay.
to expand those services.
Okay. So, and I use one of their services as well, and I really love it. And having a Saturday option for me personally will be great. So I hope that somewhere in the future that we could see some changes come. Not to say there's anything wrong with the system as it is now, just I know when they first started, they did offer some extended services, and because of ridership, they had to drop it down, and now ridership is up again. But the residents, if you want to see more things, you have to, voice your opinion. Go to these city council meetings. I say this all the time. Be the voice. Go to these meetings. Let your voice be heard. So, and
There's- any to the website, the Jonesboro City website,
okay.
and you can see the minutes, but you can also see a video of the council meetings, so you can stay informed. Now, the problem with that is you can't ask questions during the meeting,
Okay.
but but at least it will give you an idea of what's going on.
And another thing I try to encourage people, get to know the alderman for your ward and talk to them, express your concerns to them, so that way the alderman can take those concerns to the council, and it may one day be a part of the agenda, and you have more time to talk about it versus, only 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the meeting.
Absolutely.
Because by that time, I'm sure people are kind of tuned out and ready to go home.
Or fired up. there have been, especially like when, and I'll give you an example, when they have the police situation, basically you could just feel the tension in the room. They were just like itching for that public comment period so that the various passions and frustrations on both sides of the issue could be expressed. But unfortunately you only got 15 minutes, so only so much passion and frustration can be expressed in that time frame. So like what Bila said, the ideal thing is to bring it to your councilman to get it put on the agenda, and then you have more time to voice your concerns no matter how you feel on the issue.
Exactly.
Okay. And so have you had many opportunities to visit with residents? Have you had many meet and greets, or do you have any meet and greets planned?
I've gone to everything that's been offered to me.
Okay.
What I really enjoyed was I got a score of questionnaires from different places. I got one from the Northeast Arkansas Realtors Association. I got one from the Jonesboro Sun. I got one from the firefighters local here.
Okay.
And I told them the other night, I met with those folks at a meet and greet, and I told them that their questionnaire was the most comprehensive I've ever seen anywhere.
Wow.
About 18 questions, and they were detailed questions and well thought out. Challenged me to answer them. And I like that. I like being challenged. It keeps me from getting stale.
Okay.
So and I've met my opponents, and I've met a lot of constituents, and like I said at the beginning of the interview, I absolutely love people who care enough to get involved and to collect as much information as they can so they can make an informed decision on voting day.
And I like to encourage people, get to listen, get to know who's running, listen to what they have to say, so that you can vote for the person that you feel represents you and your family the best. Don't just live in the city. Be a part of it. Be a part of how government runs. I've been seeing different things on Facebook and Instagram, the different social media sites about transparency. So how do you feel about, I'm sure there's some things that everybody can't know, but when it comes to city business and where the tax money is going and various other ordinances, how do you feel about transparency within?
I've never worked a job in my entire life where my boss just walked away and let me do whatever I wanted to.
Okay.
There were guidelines, and after a while, some of those bosses decided, well, he knows what he's doing and he's okay. But the simple fact of the matter is, being on the city council or any part of city government, you are an employee of the voters.
Okay.
They have a right to know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So now, that being said, if they don't take the effort to find out, it's just like a boss hiring somebody and then walking away.
Okay. So anyone that's out there listening or watching our live stream, you want to know what's going on with the city, talk to your alderman. Go to the city of Jonesboro or wherever city you live in. What would be the courthouse, the town, city hall.
Right.
And talk to someone, see what you can find out about what's going on and what affects you within the city that you live in.
Once again, we're speaking with Mr. Leslie Sites, candidate for Jonesboro City Council Ward 2 position 2. Mr. Sites, another issue, and this was one that was brought up in the mayoral debate last night, is annexation. There's a debate on whether the city should annex more property or just focus on the property that we already have? So just what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe Jonesboro is somewhere close to 80 square miles right now. And before you annex anything, you need to look at your infrastructure and see if you could support that. And again, the reason for the annexation needs to be taken into account. Okay. So you can't, or you shouldn't, annex property just to grow your square footage. So
they need to look at a lot of different factors.
Right.
So is it that, looking into, I didn't read that article, but are they trying to add more property around the city line, the county line?
I don't have like specific knowledge. I just know that was a question that was brought up during the debate. Now, one of the points that one of the candidates brought up was that one of the things that does happen when you annex land is you have to immediately begin providing services to the annexed land, such as police and fire protection, because they are a part of the city, so they are entitled to those services. And there was a concern that, you know, if a whole bunch of land is added, that could add additional stress to such the police and fire departments.
Correct. I think it's my understanding that as far as utilities go, the developers are responsible for that part. But again, that's, you know, your sewers have to go somewhere, and the water has to be provided from somewhere. So those two could be taxed. Stressed.
Yes.
Let's stay away from that word.
Yes.
If we can.
No taxes right now.
But yes, again, you know, when I moved here, I felt safe and secure in this town. I still do.
Okay.
And I don't want to lose that.
Okay.
And Mr. Sites, what are some of the other issues that people have brought to your attention that they feel very strongly and passionately about?
Oh man, there's a bunch of them.
Well, just name the first couple that come off the top of your head.
Traffic flow.
Is
a big issue. They are working on some of those things, some of that traffic problem, but you know, when I first came down to Jonesboro, I ran into a heavy traffic situation. I thought, well, it must be shift change time or something, you know. But I found out that it doesn't make any difference what time it is.
No.
But there are some turn lanes that could be added around the city, in my opinion.
Okay.
And we go back to that. I'm not an engineer, but I would be more than willing to solicit input from traffic engineers, traffic studies. I see a lot of these counters out on the road now, so somebody's doing some studies, and I'm glad about that. We already mentioned the storm sewers. We do need to add fire stations. We need to add fire personnel. And the mayor has already asked the fire chief to start looking for another fire marshal.
Oh, wow.
So that department needs to be expanded. So.
Well, with that, okay, then there's more salary. So is the money in the budget already to support new facility, new salaries?
You know, I learned a long time ago, if you don't know the answer to something, just say you don't know.
Okay.
And I don't. I understand that the city has a surplus, but you can't break the bank. You can't deplete that surplus because everybody needs a rainy day fund.
Yes.
So we'd have to look to see where the funds are available at.
Okay.
And then, you know, worst situation, you take it to the people. You know, because the fire department just got an ISO rating, and that's awesome.
Okay.
But national standards say that the trucks should be staffed with 4 people, and right now they're staffed with 3.
Okay.
to me, those national standards should be a minimum standard. We want to keep our people safe while they're doing the job that none of us want to do.
I know.
All right, Mr. Sites, of course, as you know, because you obviously were a participant in the discussion and the discourse, is the property maintenance code. The code was passed, and then there was the recall election, and the code was repealed. But there are still dilapidated houses around town. There's still unsightly property. There's still renters that have complaints about landlords not fixing up their property. So we haven't seen the last of this issue. So if you are elected to the Jonesboro City Council and this issue comes up again, what do you propose is the best solution to fix this issue?
Well, first off, I'm against another property code. I'm absolutely against anything that includes the interior of your home. That being said, there's a lot of properties in the community that are owned by outside entities, people that don't live here. Some of those, and I'm talking about multifamily dwellings, you get into a problem when those multifamily dwellings become high density, because now it's not only a strain on the utilities and the services, but it's a strain on the property owner as well to maintain a level of safety there. So that being said, I believe we have enough codes to take care of those issues, but some of those codes may need to be revised. And then when you start talking about single family dwellings for low income people, we need to be able to provide some type of service to assist them to bring those up. Don't just go in there and seize their property and throw them out, because now what are you going to do with them? Okay. But, you can't be a servant leader without serving.
Okay. Well, do you have any ideas what the language should say as far as, I know we talked about this a little bit, and there's been so much talk about it between other people and news and newspaper, whatever. Do you have any ideas on how to propose to change the language so that it protects those that are in that lower economic status?
Well, we would have to. I'd have to read the code as it exists now,
okay,
to determine what we need to do to change that. But again, the comment was that it was either, let them go or condemn the property. The middle ground there.
Okay.
And when I was the mayor in Winfield, we had a fund that was specified to help low-income families, and it extended beyond that. Okay. Somebody wanted to paint their house, and we had this go on every spring. If you wanted to paint your house, we'd buy the paint. Didn't make any difference whether you're low income or not. So you tell us what you needed, and we'd provide it.
Okay.
So I mean, that's a small issue, but I'm sure there are grants that are available to help people in their dwellings so that they don't have to worry about safety issues.
Okay. This topic came up. Oh, we're about to run out of time, so I'll ask.
Well, we still have a short break. When we come back, we are talking with Mr. Leslie Sites. He is a candidate for Ward 2, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council. You are listening to Community Conversations, and this is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Let's be honest, infomercials are captivating. However, despite the risk-free promises and the buy now, get a second one free pitches, the products sold by infomercial companies don't always live up to the hype. To help avoid problems with purchasing products advertised through infomercials, the Better Business Bureau recommends that you take these steps. Take your time to consider the purchase. Research the company and product. Go to bbb.org to obtain the business review on the company and check its BBB rating. The Better Business Bureau also recommends buyers immediately notify sellers if items are disappointing, damaged, or do not arrive as anticipated. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org. KLEK 102.5 FM and Massey Productions presents the inspirational gospel stage play, What Don't Kill Me Makes Me Stronger. A story of three sisters challenged to cope with cancer, drugs, and rape that will inspire you, renew, and reaffirm your faith. 2 shows, 6 and 8:30 p.m., Friday, October the 14th, during A-State Homecoming Weekend at the Epic Center, 1899 County Road 333, Hasbrook Road in Jonesboro. Tickets are $10 in advance, $20 at the door, and can be purchased at www.klekfm.org or by calling 870-277-1080. Bring the entire family Friday, October the 14th during A-State Homecoming Weekend to the Epic Center to see What Don't Kill Me Makes Me Stronger, the inspirational gospel stage play. 2 shows, 6 and 8:30 p.m. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers of Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Race Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
The City of Jonesboro Civil Service Commission will be testing for the position of entry-level firefighter. Applications are available at the Human Resources Department located at City Hall, 300 South Church Street, Suite 100 in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The qualifications are candidates must be a United States citizen, possess a high school diploma or GED, be a minimum of 21 years of age, a maximum age of 34 years of age as required by Arkansas law, no felony convictions. Applicants are also required to possess a valid driver's license, pass a written exam, a physical agility test, a drug screen, medical exam, and a comprehensive background check, including a polygraph test. The City of Jonesboro is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information is available at 870-933-4640. Applications will be available through October 14th, 2016.
Lame excuses and other forms of voter apathy have no place in American democracy. Show that you care, do your duty, and go vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
From the KLEK Community Calendar, A-State Care presents After School Tutoring in the Community. Available Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 o'clock p.m. until 5 o'clock p.m. through December 6, 2016. Subjects that will be taught will be language arts, writing, reading comprehension, mathematics, science, geography, social studies, and history. The address is 911 Magnolia Road in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations with our guest, Mr. Leslie Sites, running for Jonesboro City Council, Ward 2, Position 2.
Alrighty. The question I have before we went to break, I don't want to, spend too much time on it because I want to give you the opportunity to spend the last few moments to, tell the listeners and viewers more about yourself and, why they should vote for you. But I did just want to bring up what we were talking about over the break as far as, we talked about the property maintenance code and people not being able to pay for this, that, and, what could potentially go wrong if that was okay. So And there are people that have stuff in their yards that, they may not can get rid of. And I don't know how much influence the city council or the city would have over this and how it all works as far as hauling things away. And I just want to see something come back if it's not in place now. City and private, residents getting together to say, okay, let's have a cleanup day or week or month or something, and allow the people to get rid of their stuff for free versus I'm going to charge you and fine you if you don't get rid of this and don't paint this or don't fix that,
Right. Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts, ideas on?
I do. As a mayor of a small community, we had the same problem. You can't write people tickets for not hauling off property they're not capable of hauling off. So every spring, the city of Winfield had what they call a citywide cleanup day.
Okay.
I understand they used to have that here, but I'd like to see that come back.
Okay.
Now, if you had large objects or whatever, the city required someone to be there to help these guys load that stuff. But what you're going to find is you put a lot of junk out on the curb, you're going to have a lot of people who deal in metals come by and
scavengers
take a bunch of that stuff with them. So, there may not be as much left to haul off as you think there was.
Okay. Well, hopefully someone out there listening has a big heart and people with different equipment, say, okay, let's join together and let's make, the city of Jonesboro beautiful, all sides of the town.
Absolutely. So. That's, that's a really good way to provide service to your neighbors.
That's right.
Mr. Sites, I want to ask this question. You say you were the mayor of Winfield. What are some of the differences and some of the similarities you see with being served in Winfield as opposed to here in Jonesboro?
Well, it's a lot larger council.
Okay.
In Winfield, there were 5 councilmen.
Okay.
So the possibility of a tie vote was a lot smaller.
Okay.
Although I did have 2 occasions to break a tie vote. The mayor, I don't know whether most people know it or not, but the mayor doesn't get to vote. He doesn't have a vote unless the council is tied.
Okay.
Then the mayor breaks the tie. So that being said, the mayor of a small community like Winfield was also the police commissioner.
Oh.
So the police department worked directly under me.
Did you have to get any special police training because of that?
No, I wasn't. I didn't go out on the street.
Okay.
I was just the boss,
okay.
The administrator, so to speak. So, although I was a correctional officer for 10 years, as I'd said before, so I'd had some police training. I had weapons training, and I knew a little bit about what those guys were dealing with because I got the end result of it.
Okay. Okay.
So I found out that there are a lot of things in common. I've rubbed elbows with the mayors of Iowa City, which is comparable to Jonesboro, a little smaller, and Cedar Rapids, which is a little larger.
Okay.
They had a project going on there in the state on Highway 218 they called the Avenue of the Saints, from St. Paul, Minneapolis to St. Louis.
Okay.
And a good portion of that came through Iowa. So the mayors along that route got together on several different occasions. And I got to visit with them and found out that one thing that all the cities had in common, regardless of the size, was pets, or dogs specifically. So I'd get calls on Sunday about somebody's dog being in their yard.
Oh no.
All right, well, we want to thank you, Mr. Sites, for stopping by the studio. We have a little over 2 minutes, so this is your opportunity to sell yourself to the listeners and to let them know why they should elect you for Ward 2, Position 2 of the Jonesboro City Council.
Well, I'm absolutely having a ball meeting people, and win, lose, or draw. I'm coming out a winner. as I said earlier, I like to think of myself as a servant leader. The ultimate servant was Jesus Christ himself, who said, he who wishes to be the greatest among you will be a slave, as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. So that's what I want to do, and any politician or anybody else who takes a position voted on by the people, who does it for status or power, should be eliminated. So I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here and to be speaking with you and to your listeners.
All right, anyone that you want to say hello or send a shout out to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've got to say hi to my wife, Debbie. And my son, Ethan, who both live here in Jonesboro. So, oh man, there's a whole bunch of people. So
you got a minute.
Time.
Do you have a Facebook page?
I do, and it's Leslie Sitzes, LESLIESITZES.
Okay.
And I encourage people to go to the Facebook, message me, and I'll answer your questions.
Okay.
And is there any other way in which people can get in touch with you?
I have an email, which is lsites, like I said, LSITZES @hotmail.com, and I'll answer you. If I'm elected, you're going to get my phone number.
All right. Mr. Sites, we thank you for stopping by the studio. Once again, KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not endorse nor support any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This interview was provided for educational purposes only. I had to get that out very fast and very quick. You guys have a blessed day. We'll see you tomorrow. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK